Hi, I'm John.
I'm Juliet, and this is Half Dozen's Homestead.
Today we're going to be working on our mini greenhouse. That's our greenhouse within a greenhouse. So this whole greenhouse, we don't actually heat in the wintertime. We have lily of the valley, and they need to freeze. So typically during the day, we have the windows open, and we let it freeze in here. But in order to start our seedlings, we built a mini greenhouse. So we're going to clean this up and get this ready so that we can start things going and get prepared for spring. Sound good, Juliet?
Yep.
Let's go. So this is a totally rudimentary window, but normally in the springtime when the greenhouse is actually getting heated by the sun, we want it to cool down. We don't want it so hot in our mini greenhouse. So we have this window with this cable that's a little janky, but the way it works, watch out, Nathaniel, is it rolls down. There you go. And you pull it to open it. So we want to close now because we're closing it for the winter season so that we can start utilizing this space. Leave it closed, buddy. Okay. So the kiddos are inside the greenhouse, hanging out on the other side of the plastic. 2 layers of plastic don't hold a lot of heat. If you lock them in and put some air between it, all of a sudden they get a crazy amount of R value. The Lexan is not bad. It already has the cells in it, which is holding air. And again, it's the air that's going to help hold the heat. Hello, Juliet. Hello, Nathaniel. So what I just installed was, it's called Polylock. So we install a Polylock, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put wiggle wire on it. So you can see what we've done at the top. That is actually what's holding it up. It's Polylock, and the wiggle wire locks it in. So I'm going to set up and I'm going to do the wiggle wire on the 2 sides and the bottom, and we're going to get this thing sealed up. Okay, say goodbye, Calvin. We're closing it. Say bye to my phone. Bye-bye. So this treacherous stuff is called wiggle wire. Goes in the Polylock and seals the plastic in. Does an amazing job, but it also can get amazingly tangled. I have 4 pieces here, and this is going to take me a minute to undo. Sometimes spending that extra minute when you put it away to make sure it's perfectly straight and flat will save you lots of time when you try to use it again. So I hold the plastic tight and I just start working the wire in. I want the plastic fairly tight. Once I start blowing the plastic up, the plastic's going to want to stretch and expand on its own. So it's like crocheting, but in reverse. Okay, and if you make a mistake, like you didn't pay attention to how much plastic was on that side, works out fairly easily. Again, watch your eyes, because it's really easy to get whacked in this, especially when you're this tall. So if this was a permanent installation, I'd cut these, I'd flip them in the ends so that it would be good and locked for now and for forever until the plastic wears out. But since I plan on opening this in about 2 months, once the greenhouse starts to heat up, I lock it in. Once I lock it in, and in the springtime, since the ends are already out, I can grab them and then pull them out. Okay, window is nice and closed. Now we need to get air into it. So we want to get air into this window we just locked up. And we have a blower motor up here, and that air blows down and blows into this window behind us. So that's 2 layers of poly that runs all the way down. And because it's blown up, it's got a nice insulation value. So instead of trying to tap off the top there or do something else, what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the side. We're going to make a hole that's hopefully not too big, and then we're going to stretch that a piece of hosing over and plug it in here. So I'm sure I'm going to have people comment and ask, why in the world is my roll bar on such an angle? And I want to come up with a million excuses as to why I did it. The main one would be This roll bar is not long enough to have enough weight to drop easily on its own. When you've got 50 feet of roll bar or 100 feet of roll bar, which is part of the roll-up window assembly, there's enough weight to pull it down. 6 feet is not long enough. So what we did is we stopped up the end there and we slid a bunch of rebar in, and that rebar gives it the weight. And then I poly-locked it in to the bar like that and kept it on an angle. Again, it's not the most beautiful thing. There's a million ways to make it better, look nicer. But for what I needed, it worked. And so far, you're the first people who see it, who may comment on it. But everybody else just doesn't really come in our greenhouse. This is sort of our spot. This is where we grow our plants, our seedlings, get stuff started. So it's just for us. So don't mind the sloping roll bar or the crazy built greenhouse that looks hacked in there. It works for us. What I'm gonna do now is cut a small hole in one layer, and I'm gonna use my fist to make that hole bigger. You don't wanna cut your hole the exact same circumference as what your pipe is gonna be. It'll sit loose and it won't ever hold nice. So you cut a small hole, about that size, a little bit bigger than a toonie. So using my fist, I just sort of stretch it out. It stretches the edge instead of having a cut edge for it to sort of tear and continue to tear down. So you could do this with different size flexible pipes. I like to use the reflective ones. They break down slower in all the sunlight. For in a greenhouse, you get a fair bit of sunlight. 3-inch would be more than fine for this space. All I've got is 4-inch, and that's what I'm gonna use, if I can get it in there. Yeah, I gained the kid because he's a lot quieter when I'm holding him. As he gets his juice box to get his sugar levels up so he's not so angry. All I did was I slipped the first couple ribs in, and that's good enough. It's gonna hold it in there. So essentially all I need to do is stretch it out, cut the hole in that one. I'll try to do it with the fan still blowing, and if it really starts to deflate or is a real pain, then I'll stop, but we'll try it with it going. You see me unplug it, it's because it was a pain. Okay, can you be good? You gonna go have fun?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, you go play. You go sit on your little tractor, all the way in the back. This tin material you can cut just with your scissors. The single wire that's in there, I'll use some pliers just to get through that, but otherwise, yeah, pretty straightforward stuff. Nice seal. Now the air starts to flow. I'm gonna strap that up so it doesn't look so wonky. But if you come over here, you can see it's working. It's starting to blow this up. But the plastic's nice and tight. Lots of space between us. Lots of good insulation value. Time to clean. So since we're starting the greenhouse up again and we're just getting going, we're going to take down our old bug card from last year. And we use this card to keep an eye on what sort of bugs we've got, if there's thrips or aphids or anything like that. And essentially, one thing, it catches a bunch of them. Secondly, it just tells us if there's something we need to worry about, if we need to try to do some biologicals to try to get something under control. But so far it looks good. So peel a brand new one. Nothing's on here. And then we'll typically try to hang these close to where we end up putting our seedlings. One of the spots we do is up here. The bugs are also attracted to the light. So the light will go on, it'll shine, they'll come over there, they'll get bored, and they will land on the beautiful yellow card. So this is our light, which is a purple and blue spectrum, and really helps for the plants growing and developing. Since we have our mini greenhouse on the side of the shop here, we lose a good chunk of the morning sun. So we don't really start getting sun in here until nearly 10:30, 11 o'clock by the time the sun comes all the way up to there. And then we have sun the rest of the afternoon. So in order to sort of trick our plants into thinking that it's peak growing time, springtime's rocking, we run the lights, we turn them on around 5 in the morning, and we run them for a couple hours until the sun is up, and then they turn off and they get the natural sunlight. And it is extremely bright and makes everything turn purple after you've looked at it. So again, we've got our grow light on top, which is going to do the top shelf. Of course, it gets a lot of natural light. And then as you make your way down, we also have more LEDs. They're a little bit high up, especially at the start for the plants, but they work well. It's sort of a pain to hang and lower them. So we leave them up there, and then the lower shelves we typically will leave on the entire day. Again, we got another shelf down here. We've put Lexan on top of the shelves. We don't really like all the water every time we water them dripping through and getting soily, dirty water on top of the trays. So we did Lexan. All the water runs forward, runs down, goes into the gravel, and gets drained back out to the pond eventually. Another thing that we've got over here is we've got our heat mats. So we'll explain this more when we start getting some seedlings going, but we use the heat mats to fool the plants into thinking it's a lot warmer than it is. Warm soils that get germination started. Another feature about our little greenhouse, we've got a little electric heater. Works really well. It produces enough heat. Then we've got this barrel here. This barrel, I need to move a little further away from the heater. But then typically what that barrel does is that barrel fills up with water, and that's where we get our water from. So our water comes from the pond into this barrel, from this barrel into here. And we use it for two reasons. Reason one is we use it as a heat battery. So that barrel's in here, it's close to the heater, it heats up all day long, and then at nighttime it's slowly releasing that same heat. So it just works to give us a little bit more thermal mass in the greenhouse, and that helps regulate temperature. There's not the highs and lows and the spikes. Second reason is seedlings are often very delicate, and we don't want to be watering seedlings with pond water. That's coming out, that's just outside there. It's freezing cold, it's got ice on it. If we water with that, we can often shock the seedlings, and that can really slow down their growth, slow down their production, how big they'll get, those sort of things. So water comes in on the top right here, goes through a pipe inside there, all the way to the bottom, and then the warm water, which is the water that's been sitting in there, comes out of the top. So it comes off of this hose, and then we connect our watering hose onto that, and that's what we use. So that always stays full whenever the greenhouse is operational. So this time of year, we're starting it up. Prior to that, we had it all drained out so that anything that froze, and then we use that for our watering. One other thing to talk about would be our exhaust fan. Our exhaust fan, which won't really need to be used between now and March, it's plugged in to this guy right here, which is a temperature sensor, and then that'll set the temperature, and we'll set it at 24, 25, something like that, and that'll make sure it doesn't get too hot in here. So if it's way too hot in here, it'll kick the fan on, and we can set the fan to either exhaust out or blow in, and that really doesn't make a huge difference. Typically we exhaust out, and therefore the air we're getting in is still greenhouse temperature air, so it's not freezing cold. Once we're in the summertime and it's really hot, then we'll do the opposite. We'll take the cooler outdoor air will blow it into the mini greenhouse, and in turn that'll blow into the big greenhouse, and it'll keep making its way out. So that's the exhaust fan. And I think that's it. I think that's the 3 parts of our greenhouse. So the greenhouse is all clean, the plastic is blown up, it's fairly well sealed. We turn the heat on, we've got our water going. We are ready for springtime.
Yep.
Yes, we are. We should get started on some seedlings in the next couple of videos. Thanks for joining us on Half Dozen Homestead, and we hope to see you again. Bye.